I'd like to welcome tonight our third speaker, Gehan Macleod from the GalGal Trust. Gehan spent her years earlier on in the 90s being a social environmental activist, part of the Faslane Peace Camp and the Pollock Free State movement. I remember those years. I didn't go, it's too scary. But anyway, the GalGal Trust have an amazing part in people's lives and in their hearts in Glasgow, particularly in the Govan area. They work with thousands and thousands of people, doing a range of activities that we're going to hear about. It's connected to boats, but we're going to find out about that now. If I can welcome Gehan Macleod. Thanks, Gehan. So, my first question is actually going to be about your roots and where you come from. Now, I know you're an Essex girl, I'm a maid of Kent. That's not what we're talking about. Tell us about those activism days. Why did you get involved in those quite radical social change movements?
I think as most young people, you're interested in the world and the way it works, and you kind of come through a sort of idealistic childhood and suddenly realise it doesn't work that way.
Does it not?
No, and I don't think I was kind of willing to accept that, and then you start to get politicised, so the sort of disappointment, there's no magic in the world, kind of gets tinged with sort of, you know, the tools to sort of analyse what's actually going on. And you just weren't seeing a lot of leadership at government level, so there was quite a lot happening on this activism scene at the time, so just gave it a go, and
that's the way you were.
Yeah.
What was happening at Pollock Free State? Just for the youngsters in the room. Yeah. A long time before even email.
Yes, yes. You should have seen our mobile phone. We had a mobile phone in the tree.
One of them.
Yeah, it was about that size. That was just a handset.
Yeah.
You couldn't just get a handset. You had to have this unit that came with it. But we thought we were advanced. But yeah, Pollock Free State what came out of local people who were opposing a motorway that was going through and cutting off the scheme and the housing from Pollock Estate. It also broke up the estate, which was one of the biggest areas of parkland in any city in Europe. So it was local people really that got involved.
How many people were there living in the trees?
It wildly varied from 2 to 20 or 30, maybe 40 if there was something happening that, you know, like diggers coming in or some kind of event like that.
I mean, it really takes me back because in those days, Faslane, Pollock Free State, I don't know how we heard about those things because there wasn't social media, there wasn't emails.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know, but we all knew about it.
Yeah.
I mean, it was in the press.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I think it's something to do.
Was it pre-Swampy?
It was pre-Swampy.
Okay.
In fact, Swampy came and stayed.
Swampy.
Yeah, Swampy. Yeah. Yeah, the press loved Swampy. Yeah. No, it was pre-Swampy, and I think it's definitely connected with, you know, the human lover story and curiosity. So, you know, my husband was the local boy that stood up and decided he wasn't going to let the road go through. So
everyone loves a hero.
At that set, yeah, he decided to take that message up a tree for 9 days. So everybody remembers. You wouldn't believe how many contacts we still have of people that remember those 9 days.
Does the tree still stand?
It does, although it's pretty battered by these storms. So there's not much left of it, I think. But that's mainly storm damage rather than.
So tell us, just introduce us to the GalGal. What is the GalGal, and where's that name from?
Yep. Well, I suppose the easiest way to tell the story is to go right back to the Free State days, and I also think it relates to the theme of placemaking because it was a little stretch of woodland right on the edge of a big estate where there were a lot of issues.
Housing estate.
Housing estate. Yeah. There wasn't huge police presence, there was no security lighting, all of the kind of safety mechanisms we have in our communities, which also don't necessarily make our communities that safe. And we had this sort of association with freedom, so if it's a free state, that automatically means you can drink as much as you like and do whatever drugs you want, and people were, you know, bring out flick knives, and we had all sorts of trouble.
That's why I didn't go. Let's point that out.
And I suppose the story is how we turned that environment into somewhere where people felt safer than they did in the scheme, and that was very much about creating a sense of purpose, so there was always something needing done. You know, we created a network of paths through the woods, going up to the roadbed and bringing down chuckies.
What are chuckies?
Stones. There was always water needing to be got, or things needing dug, or
she gave
things
chopped,
purpose. Or and that purpose kind of gave people that driver that meant that there wasn't the time to kind of, it made it too uncomfortable to sit around and just get boozed up, and you know, and then all the places that led to.
And is that what's translated into the GalGal?
Yeah, one of the things we kept people busy doing was carving. We still do that today. We were building little structures and things like that. So when the road went through, we didn't want to throw away all the things we'd learned about how to make community and how to make a space in a difficult place.
And with difficult people,
and
in difficult situations.
In difficult situations, yeah, loads of stories there.
Yeah. We'll save that for the bar.
Yes, absolutely, so we wanted to create a vehicle to take that learning forward and move from what we didn't want to what we did want, and that's when the GalGal came about. It was very much about reconvening a sense of peoplehood rather than setting up an organisation or a charity. And the GalGal were a 9th century group of people who were the settlers on kind of arriving on the west coast, got so assimilated into the Gaelic culture.
Where did they come from?
Stronger for it, mainly Norse. And
first a wave of migrants.
Yes,
back then, 9th century migrants.
And the irony is that those are now the communities where Gaelic culture is still the strongest. So it means strange or foreign Gaels, and for us it was about tapping into cultural identity in a way that was inclusive rather than exclusive, and that even extends to Essex. Mongols like
or Kent or Carolina.
Classic South Dakota, but
yes, Dakota, sorry. Or from Glasgow when you're in Nielsen.
Shelton.
We're all incomers somewhere along the line.
Yeah, there's a bit of the stranger and a bit of the incomer and a bit of the native in all of us, yeah.
So it's been 20 years of creating an organisation that's very, very well established now. I mean, how many people do you work with a year, do you think?
Officially we work with about 100 to 130 people a year. Then added to that, we open up the space every Thursday night, and there's usually between 50 and 70 people from the wider community that attend on a weekly basis.
What do they come for, those?
Well, we think we've got a great big workspace, lots of, it's all set up for doing creative work, so it's really there for people to make the most of that.
And they just come in, turn up and get going?
Yeah, and the emphasis is kind of on Skillshare rather than us teaching so much. You know, it's about what skills have you got, what might you want to teach other people, or
and what types of things are being taught amongst the community?
I mean, it's people mainly work on woodwork projects, so people will make all kinds of things, a small coffee table or carving or boxes, but then sometimes people, there's a couple of guys that are right into doing their fire juggling in the yard at the moment, which doesn't kind of quite go with the firewood that we've got stacked out there, but somehow works.
You let it happen.
Yes.
Radical.
Yeah.
Roots are radical.
Yeah, something like that.
And you built boats, not one, but many.
Yeah,
yes.
we've built a number of boats. I've never actually got around to counting. I'm not very good at memorising numbers, I don't think either. But anyway,
big, small. How many people can get in your biggest boat?
Biggest boat we've built so far is O'Cuan. She's about 28 foot long, and 8 people on oars she'll take. Yeah.
There's a link here with the rise in the rowing communities around the Firth
That's
and Forth.
Yes.
Porty's got its own rowboat. That's happening all over.
Yeah.
People are loving connecting through, in terms of placemaking, connecting through the building of boats and then using the boats.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So has your boats been on any great voyages?
Yeah, I suppose O'Cuan's most interesting voyage was to the Magnus Bearlegs Festival in Strangford Lough in Northern Ireland.
Went to Northern Ireland?
Yeah.
But they rowed it to Northern Ireland?
They didn't quite row. They part rowed, part towed, part sailed.
Okay.
We're not a slave to doing things right. Do you know what I mean? We just do it by any means possible.
Yeah.
Somebody was remembering a story how they got lodged on a sandbank and got off it by throwing the anchor and then pulling the boat until they got off the sandbank. So we're not the best sailors in the world, but we'll get there. We will get there.
Just like the building of places and things.
Yeah.
So some of the people that you work with, what are the challenges that they're facing in your sort of mostly from the Govan community?
Yeah, I mean, people come from all over Glasgow, but we give priority to people from the local Govan area. Yeah. I think the biggest challenge that people are facing is uncertainty, anxiety caused by often the structures that are put in place to create welfare and support. I think the constant change that people are having to navigate is kind of a feat in itself. I get quite angry when I hear about, you know, the sort of resilience narrative, because I think the people that we work with are already incredibly resilient. I can't believe how much they take and keep going sometimes. So I think definitely the welfare system doesn't help people. It doesn't create that safety net, and also the sort of stigmatization of a lot of the, I think, fairly normal reactions to an insane world, and also then all the different things that interventions that are done to people supposedly to fix them. It's a bit of a guddle.
So how does playing with wood
Yeah.
help make people resilient? What do you think it does?
I think primarily the experience that people really get something out of is a sense of you're not here because you need to be here or because you need fixed. You're here because we're going to find a way that we can get you to help us shift that big tree. See that big bit of tree there? We need you to help us shift it from there to there and then probably back again, because we got mixed up and realised that actually it was better there in the first place. And I think that, you know, there's this overemphasis on providing services to people, and I think that in a status-driven society where a lack of employment income creates severely limits your opportunity to acquire status through consuming. If we then further reduce people to just consuming services, what are we leaving them with? So I think engaging people with wood gives them an opportunity to contribute back, feel that they're needed. I think that is fundamental. People need to be needed more than they need services, and so kind of it's the wood, but it's also creating a framework through which people find social solidarity, so they're helping out somebody else who's maybe a bit low because they're going through a bit of a tricky patch in their relationship, or they're having trouble dealing with the brew or whatever. So
it's that container where things can occur, where people can be on equal status, contributing, not consuming.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. And profoundly the sense of, you know, when people arrive, you're not here because you need us, we need you. And I think sometimes that's the first time people have heard that. I think that along with the income deprivation that comes with unemployment, there is so much else that people lose. Identity. I think there's a lot about confidence, and I think it's like this conveyor belt that if we top people up with confidence, suddenly this job will appear like magic and people will slot right in. And I think so being upfront with people and just kind of not buying into that kind of narrative is a start. But also realising that for a lot of people it's gone way beyond losing a sense of worth to just losing all sense of self and the lack of meaning making in modern society as a whole, but particularly if you haven't got employment.
That's all by making a place.
Yes. Yeah.
So to you, some of the elements that make up a great place, being a great placemaker, what would that contain?
I think it's about realising that you're there to observe as much as plan and then implement, you know, and noticing what's happening and then working with it. A wee bit like a permaculture approach. So some of the things that we hadn't anticipated would be transformative for people ended up being really useful, so we've tried to grow those or grow along and not sort of lose them along the way and kind of inadvertently kind of do away with them in the name of improvement, and I've got a great plan and we're going to implement it and suddenly we've lost something.
Now you've gone from being somebody who was very much in a counterculture movement to leading an organisation that's been very much being sought its knowledge and experience by the powers that be. You're being backed quite heavily now. All sorts of people are investing in the GalGal. It's a big organisation. How does it feel to be maybe in a different position, not on the outside looking in, but on the inside sharing knowledge and experience? What does that feel like? Is there any tension there?
It feels, I suppose, gratifying to know that what you're doing is interesting to other people, and that there's something there that might help them in their area or in their work. I like to think that we're still radical. We're just radical in a different way. I think that the way in which we're radical has changed, so that whereas before it was kind of, locking on to a bulldozer, I think now it's about ideas and concepts and challenging, I think challenging the thinking, so challenging the narrative around, broken people or the kind of whole sausage factory approach to sort of social
Changing
change.
people's lives. If we do this and this and this and this, then magic will happen.
That's it. And a lot of it is now quite subtle, and I think a lot of it is reflected in the kind of relationships and challenging the whole notion of charity itself. I think that while on some level we do need charitable approaches, it is still a top-down power structure. So it's still inadvertently a lot of the time supporting the same problems. We're picking up the pieces of something fundamentally broken, and so I think it's about naming that truth, and describing it, and then demonstrating what happens when you create an environment where people feel respected and feel dignity. Suddenly we've got people who've been termed work shy or unemployable, or whose GP was about to remove them off the methadone program, doing amazing bits of graft and shifting, not joking, house high piles of rubbish from one area of the yard to make space for us to put the timber kiln. So something like that, hopefully. I like to think we're still radical in a different way.
What are the, so I know from the information you gave me beforehand that you are being, your knowledge is being sought. In what ways is that being sought? What types of organisations are looking to you as pioneers in a field of placemaking through activity? Who's after your brains?
I can't think of anybody.
Do you want me to look at my notes?
Can I borrow your notes?
No,
my brains aren't working.
Yeah.
My brains aren't working now.
Been involved in like health strategy, looking at health strategy, haven't you?
We sit on the advisory group with Glasgow Centre for Population Health on their asset-based theme. And again, it's that thing where you're doing...
What's an asset-based theme?
Exactly. You're doing something for years, and then somebody comes along and goes, oh, that's asset-based. That's an asset-based approach to health you're doing there.
Because you're making a space? Because you're placemaking?
Yeah, it's partly that, and it's partly because we're interacting with people from the perspective of what are their strengths as opposed to what are their deficits.
So they're an asset, looking at them as assets.
Yeah, but also kind of, seeing their capacities as opposed to... especially a lot of deprived communities have to sort of sell themselves based on how much deprivation they have, and I suppose that's true for individuals as well. So asset-based approaches are about building on people's strengths. I think that can lack a critical analysis of the structural inequalities that people are experiencing. But yeah, we contribute to that. I suppose sort of rattling the cage a bit sometimes. And I think sometimes we're wheeled out to sort of rattle people up a wee bit. There was an event that they had fairly recently where they'd invited some health economists in to try and put an economic value on asset-based approaches. Well. I did get a little bit heated at that. So that kind of, I don't think it's necessarily people seeking our brains, but people inviting a different perspective. Perhaps.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, you've been leading in a field, having great successes, really impacting on people's lives in a very positive way. I remember when your husband died, again pre-internet and all that lot. There was a massive ripple of shock that I was aware of in the sort of community activist world. I mean, that's your business partner, co-founder, your husband and the father of your children. How, as a leader, do you carry on when something as big as that happens? What kept you going?
I think most of all it was knowing that the baton had been passed on and not wanting to drop it, wanting to do justice. Even when Colin was here, I felt like a lot of the ideas were like little saplings, and you had to run around and kind of plant them and make sure that you were watering them all and not neglecting any of them. So I think there's that sense of not wanting to see any of them wither and die, that by keeping the essence of what he was trying to achieve alive in the work, it maintains that relationship and that closeness.
What do you think he'd be most proud of looking back? Because it was 2005 that he died, so that's 10 years.
Yeah.
What do you think he'd be proud of over the last 10 years?
I think overwhelmingly the number of people that we're now working with. You know, he was all about people, all about giving them a sense of identity. You know, as soon as his hand went out, it was, you know, what's your trade, what do you do? And suddenly you'd see people who had never kind of contemplated that question sort of coming into themselves, and you know, nearly everybody managed to come up with something that kind of made them feel really good. So I think he would love to see the number of people. Last Wednesday, I think, was a bit of a record. We had 75 people in the building, all carrying big bits of wood that way, and
there's a lot of wood moved around.
yeah, I'm telling you, you know, I think somebody had a kind of comedy moment where there was a plank swinging around this way, and narrowly missed them. Yeah,
health and safety.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so I think he'd be totally chuffed with the number of people, but also the fact that that they're all actively employed. I remember when we first moved into our place. Bailey Street 10 years ago. At that time, everybody was getting leather sofas in their reception area, and Colin was like, "No, I'm not having that. I want people grafting. I want people sitting down." So,
no seats.
Yes, well, hard seats. Hard seats, and not a lot of sitting going on.
You bear that one in mind.
So I'd be quite chuffed. I think that there's still no leather seats, and there's a lot of grafting going on.
Are you surprised at what's happened over these last 20 years, from the days of hardcore, you know, hanging out in the woods, activism, chaining yourself to bulldozers, to working with hundreds and hundreds of people, you know, every month, improving their lives? Are you surprised at that success?
Yeah, because I think it's never an easy success, and there's always the risk of losing it. So, you know, you never get to a point where you always feel like you're kind of cycling uphill and you're just getting to the brow of the hill and you're going to be able to coast for a while, but that feeling never...
It's not come yet.
You never get there, yeah.
No, don't tell me that, don't tell me that.
But I suppose that's also what keeps it interesting, yeah. Sometimes too interesting.
Sometimes. So what keeps you awake at night?
I think I'm quite accepting of the sort of financial worries. I kind of think, well, you know, if we get to that point, then we'll just reinvent ourselves, and we'll go 100% gifting economy, dump money anyway, and we'll find a way.
Innovate the business model.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, And not that I'm inviting that
Yeah.
just yet. We're not quite ready.
No.
We're still learning. I think it's the people dynamics, and I think that, you know, I think relationships are incredibly important, and it's like so many different threads, and so I think that my brain tends to run over all of those and think, you know, did I meet that person in the right way? Did they feel respected, or did I upset that person, or that person was looking for something I didn't give it them, and so
all about the people.
All
you worry about the people,
and if people aren't getting on well, or if it's that.
So you're confident you can reimagine the business model if you had to, but
not confident.
Not confident.
It doesn't. Confident enough to not keep me awake at night. But I wouldn't like
keep
to
going. Just keep going.
Yeah.
It's the people, how you treated people, how they reacted to you, and engage with you that concerns you the most.
Yeah,
I think that's a very valuable driver for any social business, is to be people orientated, concerned about the business model, how you keep it going, because things need to be kept going, but at the end of the day it's all about the people.
Yeah, absolutely.
If there's one thing that you'd like to share with the audience tonight and those that are watching about great placemaking, any top tips that you'd like to give us?
Yeah, I think never take your organisational culture and your ethos for granted. Invest in it as you grow the business. Regularly take time to stop and do what it needs to take to reveal it, grow it, reinterpret it, rearticulate it, understand it, see it from a different perspective, but keep it, don't take it for granted.
Gehan, thank you very much for your contribution tonight, and sincere best wishes for the next 20 years of the GalGal. Thank you very much.
Thanks.